The longest silence in my family wasn't caused by anger. It was fed by pride. For 15 years, my son and I celebrated every birthday, every Christmas, and every Mother's Day without speaking a single word to each other. We lived less than 30 miles apart, yet we became strangers who shared the same last name. I was 80 years old when a little girl with missing front teeth placed a folded piece of paper into my hands and quietly said, "Daddy told me to give you this only if you smiled at me." That drawing did what 15 years of stubbornness never could. If you stay with me, I'll tell you why I almost died believing I was the victim, and why I discovered that being right can cost more than being wrong. I had only one child. David. His father left us when David was 9, and from that day forward, I convinced myself that I had to become everything he had lost. I worked 12-hour shifts at a textile factory. I packed his lunches before sunrise. I sat in the front row of every school play, even if I had worked all night. People admired our bond. They said, "You two are inseparable." They didn't know that love can slowly become control without either person noticing. David wanted to study photography. I insisted he become an accountant. "It's a stable career," I said. He obeyed. He wanted to marry at 24. I told him he was too young. He waited another 3 years. When he and his wife bought a small house, I criticized the neighborhood. When they decorated the nursery, I changed things while they were at work because I believed I knew better. Every time they disagreed with me, I reminded myself of everything I had sacrificed. I thought sacrifice earned permanent authority. It doesn't. The breaking point came at Thanksgiving. David was 42. I criticized the way his wife disciplined their daughter. It was a small comment. At least that's what I told myself. His wife quietly left the table. David looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, "Mom, you've spent my whole life loving me." He paused. "But you've never trusted me to live it." The room fell silent. I crossed my arms. "If that's how you feel, maybe I shouldn't come anymore." He nodded slowly. "Maybe not." I waited for him to apologize. He waited for me. Neither of us did. That single afternoon became 15 years. At first I expected the phone to ring. It didn't. Then birthdays came and went. I wrote letters. Never mailed them. He probably did the same. Neighbors occasionally mentioned seeing him in town. I pretended not to care. Inside, I wondered whether his hair had turned gray. Whether he still laughed the same way. Whether he ever spoke about me. One afternoon at church, someone asked, "How's your son?" I smiled. "Oh, he's busy." It became my favorite lie. Busy. As though 15 years could be explained with one comfortable word. When I turned 79, my doctor warned me that my heart wasn't as strong as it used to be. For the first time, I wondered which would stop first. My heartbeat. Or my pride. Still, I didn't call. I told myself, if he loved me, he'd come. I never asked whether I had made it safe for him to return. The following spring, my neighbor invited me to her granddaughter's school art fair. I almost declined. Then I went. Children's paintings covered every wall. Bright colors. Crooked houses. Messy rainbows. As I walked through the hallway, a little girl with curly brown hair kept looking at me. Finally, she walked over. "Are you Mrs. Carter?" I nodded. She smiled nervously. "I'm Lily." My heart nearly stopped. David's daughter. The granddaughter I had never met. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. "Daddy said I could only give you this if you smiled." I realized. I hadn't smiled once since she'd walked toward me. So I did. The biggest smile I could manage. She handed me the paper. It wasn't a letter. It was a crayon drawing. A little girl stood between a gray-haired woman and a tall man. All three were holding hands. Above them, in crooked handwriting, were 6 words. Families can start again tomorrow. Nothing else. Just that. I knelt in front of her. Did your daddy draw this? She giggled. No. I did. But Daddy cried when he saw it. So did I. Right there in the school hallway. In front of strangers. I asked her quietly. Does your daddy know you're here? She pointed toward the parking lot. I turned. There he was. Older. Slower. His shoulders weren't as broad as I remembered. Neither of us moved. It felt as though 15 years stood between us like a wall. Then Lily grabbed both our hands. She didn't ask permission. She simply connected us. Children sometimes solve problems adults spend decades protecting. David looked at me with tears in his eyes. I didn't know if you'd want to see me. I laughed through my tears. I'd been saying the same thing for 15 years. Neither of us remembered who was supposed to apologize first. It no longer mattered. We walked to a nearby bench. For 2 hours we talked. Not about the argument. About life. About his work. About my health. About Lily. About all the birthdays we'd missed. Finally he looked at me and quietly asked, "Can we stop wasting time?" I nodded before he finished the sentence. That evening he drove me home. Before leaving, he hugged me. It felt unfamiliar. And completely natural. Now I'm 86. Every Sunday, my son, my daughter-in-law, and my granddaughter come for dinner. Sometimes we disagree. Sometimes I still catch myself wanting to tell them how things should be done. Then I remember those 15 empty years. Silence is an expensive price to pay for being convinced you're right. I keep Lily's drawing framed beside my favorite chair. Visitors often ask why a child's simple picture hangs in such an elegant frame. Because it isn't a drawing. It's a bridge. If someone you love is waiting for you to make the first move, ask yourself one question. Would you rather protect your pride? Or recover the years that are quietly disappearing? I almost chose pride forever. A little girl with a box of crayons chose love instead.